Hello, and welcome to N-Gauge Model Railway. I'm Jonathan. In previous videos, I've shown running quality issues with my new Dapol JHA wagons, and some partial fixes that I was able to make. I'm pleased to report that I've now finished fixing my current rake of 13 wagons. My first fix had been to add nylon washers to the bogie pivots, which stopped the wheels scraping against the wagon floor. The last time I spoke about these wagons, I said that one of the 13 had run freely, but I was wrong. I'd forgotten that I'd taken off all 26 of the bogies and put the best ones on wagons together. After adding the nylon washers, that resulted in one of the wagons running very nicely, and gave me a running quality target to aim for. But even with the bogies detached from the wagons, very few of them rolled nicely, because almost all of them had at least some wheels that didn't turn very freely. To fix that, I ordered some DCC Concepts axle bearing reamers, but sadly they were too wide for these bogie frames. With some reluctance, I decided to cut one of the reamers in half. I'd bought them in order to fix the JHA wagons, so I decided this was part of the cost of that. To start with, I wasn't able to maneuver a halved reamer into position, so I removed the white wheel type thing from it. This made it especially tricky to handle. I did my best with some pliers and managed to improve some of the bogies. The amount of plastic that the reamers remove is tiny, and it often took lots of passes to get a reasonable improvement. Eventually, I discovered that I could fit the wheeled half reamer in place after all, which made things easier, but it was still tricky. I also had to push with reasonable force to get the reamer to bite, which made my fingertips sore, but over several days I gradually got through all of the axle bearings that weren't allowing free spinning. On one or two axles I had to cut away protruding plastic before they'd run freely. I didn't film it this time, but in a previous video I did that on an axle where it didn't end up making a difference. I also trimmed all of the nylon washers because they're slightly wider than the gap at the bottom of the bogie pivot area, which was making the wagon body ride higher than necessary and adding resistance to the turning of the bogies. This is still a heavy train. I tried the Class 8 on it, but it didn't really stand a chance. The bigger, heavier locos manage it without any trouble. I'm not done with fixing JHA wagons yet. There are another 3 in my Hatton's trunk waiting to be joined by some overdue pre-orders, but I'm confident that once they're fixed, my locos will be able to haul all 16. Here's a recap of what I had to do to get these wagons rolling acceptably. Add washers on all bogie pivots. Cut away protruding plastic from the ends of a few axles. Cut some bogie crossbeams in half to release tension. Heavily ream almost all axle bearings. I know that other people have had brake shoes rubbing the wheels, but I looked very closely at all 208 of mine, and none were touching the wheels. Hopefully that'll also be the case with the 48 that are yet to come. In other news, I've bought another Dapol N steam loco. I don't intend to mention all things that I buy, but I mentioned this one because in video number 10 I said I wouldn't buy any more existing Dapol steam locos because of their terrible quality problems. However, this is a second-hand one that Rails of Sheffield described as tested and as being in excellent condition. In effect, I decided to trust the quality control of Rails of Sheffield rather than Dapol. I think there was more assurance here than with an untested brand new loco. That's not to say that Rails of Sheffield quality checks always get it right either. There's a different story to tell about my Dapol HSTs, but that's for a future video. This is the third second-hand loco that I've bought from the Rails of Sheffield website. The other two have been flawless too, so I have increasing confidence in getting locos this way. I regretted not buying a GWR 2800 heavy freight loco when they were available a few years ago, so I'm very pleased to have one now. That's all for now. Bye bye.